Revelation 9:11. You just go ahead and record it, dude. Hell yeah.
Yeah, the conversation's about to get hot. Let's go. Like, let's just get it.
All right. Yeah. All right. Am I centered up, man? I can't really tell.
No, you look good. Yeah,
Good?
you're fine.
Right,
yeah.
All
Just
right,
keep where you're going. Yeah, I want to keep going.
All right, gotcha. All right, so Revelation. All right, I'll run it back. Okay, so we have the eclipse coming up, right?
Right.
We have CERN that's going to fire up to full strength, and we got NASA shooting 3 rockets in a what is it called? It's the it's the Egyptian god that swallows the sun, the snake deity that swallows the sun in Egyptian mythology. This is what they've named this program. They're shooting 3 rockets at it. Yeah. Get the large hadron collider already up. I see.
How do you spell CERN? Is it CERN? I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
All right, and they're going to be firing up. How long has it been since the last time they turned it on?
It's been like I will have to look. It's been a little while. More and more people are getting adjust this here. They're getting awake about this. I know last time they fired up, a lot of people were talking about it on social media.
Right.
Yeah, I think most people know about CERN by now between all the conspiracy TikToks and all that type of stuff. But for those that don't, it's a huge particle collider. Initially, what they said is they were trying to recreate the conditions of the Big Bang.
Right.
It goes underneath France and Switzerland both. And where it sits, I hope I can. There's the serpent deity. Yeah. Apep.
Unbelievable.
Apep the serpent going to swallow the sun. You know, if the sun was so far away, how are they shooting missiles or rockets?
Ooh.
You understand?
Yeah. That's a good point. That's hilarious.
Yeah, man, it's incredible. They just, I don't know. I think just as society has regressed, let's just say it nicely, the things that NASA thinks they can get away with it just become more bold and more bold and more bold.
Right.
I mean, these guys. Anyway, but so CERN sits on an ancient place where they worshipped Apollo. I think it was called Apolloneum. Right there on the border of Switzerland and France. A huge portion of CERN sits in this area. Now, this is important. Why? Because in Revelation, I believe it's Revelation 9:11, it talks about the angel of the bottomless pit. There was a king over the bottomless pit, the angel of it. And in the Hebrew tongue, his name is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue is Apollyon. So Apollo is what we would commonly know him as. And he is the destroyer over the bottomless pit. So a lot of this stuff going on with the eclipse coming out right now is just, if it isn't something going to happen, people that are high up and really into esoteric and occultic things that have a lot of power are trying to make something happen.
Right.
So if nothing happens, it'll just be by the grace of God and His protection.
Right.
Because they're trying to, and then you throw in the red heifers, and they're on the Mount of Olives now, and it's just like, man, it's like the whole world at one time is just determined to summon the Antichrist, or as you know, what some people call him, the Messiah or the Mahdi, I'm sure. So it's everybody is trying to gear up and get to this point. With tensions heating up between Iran and Israel, and with Israel striking the Iranian consulate in Syria, and the prophecy of Damascus not being a city anymore, being taken away as a city in the last days. You have Persia in the Ezekiel prophecy, where Persia and Gog and Magog come against, and I believe it's Gomer, and it's named several people there. But you see the alliance between Russia, which a lot of people say is Magog, and Persia, which is Iran. The prophecy that came true, I believe it was a year or two ago, in Second Esdras, between Iran and China becoming partners, and they entered into a military and trade agreement. I believe it was like a 25-year agreement with billions of dollars invested from China into Iran. There's where are you at there? You Revelation 9:11.
Yeah, it took a hot minute just to find. I searched bottomless pit, keys to bottomless pit, Abaddon. Google wouldn't let me have it, so I had to go to my trusty Bible app on the phone to get the verse real quick.
It should be in Revelation 9:11, if I remember correctly, sir.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Yeah. Okay. And does it say he is a destroyer there?
Well, I'm sure if we were to open up the tools and hit Apollyon, I'm sure we'd get something.
I believe Apollyon is the destroyer in some translations. I could be wrong. But getting back to this, not only is CERN set on this ancient temple and city that was dedicated to Apollo, the outside of it, the government of India gifted them, and this is right outside of CERN. I believe it's in between buildings 39 and 40 on the premises of CERN. Is a statue, an idol, like a golden idol of the destroyer god Shiva doing the dance of destruction. So you have these connections to Apollyon, Apollo the destroyer, and you have the Hindu god of destruction right there. You can see it on the screen right outside of CERN.
That's a great, nice little piece to just piece all that together. I have pulled it up on the screen, so whoever was watching is able to see. Both Apollyon means destroyer, and then Abaddon was something very similar, like ruin and destruction and stuff. So, and it says the angel of the bottomless pit, the destroyer. And here you have right here, Shiva sitting outside of this place.
While you're on there, could you search Apollyon the destroyer and just see if you get any kind of reference on that? I just would like to everybody to see that come together. I know that's out there somewhere.
Just on Google?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
There you go.
And I mean, I searched Apollyon, and Wikipedia immediately gives me
right there. Hebrew term Abaddon, meaning destruction, destroyer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Abaddon, it's a destroyer.
Right.
Now, since we're talking about these destroyers, and we have the eclipse coming up, let me. Could you go to the Book of Enoch on Sacred Text or wherever for the R.H. Charles? We talked a little bit last week about how everything has an angel or like a supervisor over it. And with the eclipse coming up, I'd like to touch back on the heavenly luminaries a little bit. So in Enoch, could we go to Enoch? 72 verses 1 through 5 in the R.H. Charles version. I know sometimes it gets it's a little different from translation to translation. Perfect. Would you mind reading the first 5 verses of that, just to give
Sure.
people a little bit of context, a little better visual about what's going on up there in the second heaven?
Yeah. All right. So we're sitting here in verse 1, the book of the courses of the luminaries of heaven, the relations of each, according to their classes, their dominion and their seasons, according to their names and places of origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the holy angel, who was with me, who is their guide, showed me. And he showed me all their laws exactly as they are, and how
All
it
right,
is
hold
with.
on 1 second, sir. Who is their God?
Uriel was what I saw, which
And he's the
Uriel, the
guy.
holy
He's
angel,
the guide of the luminaries, right?
right, who is their guide.
Okay, so he is their guide. He's the one that tells them where to go, and he guides them where they're supposed to go. All right, I just wanted to slow it down a little bit just so people could get a good hold on that.
Sure. And he showed me all of their laws exactly as they are, and how it is with regard to all the years of the world and unto eternity, till the new creation is accomplished, which dureth till eternity. Verse 2. And this is the first law of the luminaries. The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern portals of the heaven, and its setting in the western portals of the heaven.
Okay,
Verse 3.
so where does the sun rise from?
Let me read that one more time. It should be from the east. Luminary sun is it's rising in the eastern portals, and it's
Out of a
setting
portal?
out of a portal.
Out of a portal.
Yeah,
Okay, and where does it set at?
it sets in the western portals of the heaven.
Sets in the western portals of the heavens. Okay, so this is what we were talking about a little bit of the flat earth stuff and how the model and everything else, and we talked a little bit about the sun being up for 24 hours in Antarctica, right? So
Right.
understand that we don't know what exactly how everything works, but the sun comes out of and into portals. All right, what else comes out of these portals? We continue to read.
Sure. So we're in verse 3, and I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises, and 6 portals in which the sun sets, and the moon rises and sets in these portals, and the
Oh, so
leaders
the
of.
moon does too.
Yeah, it sure does.
All right. What else does in these portals?
And the leaders of the stars and whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west. And
Okay,
all.
so the leaders of the stars and who they lead. So is that a metaphor, or is that leaders of stars and who they lead?
Sounds to me like somebody has a direction and a course for the stars, and that somebody is leading it the same way maybe the guy on the ground with the airplane does. It waves the little orange things. You know what I'm saying? That's what it
Yeah,
seems like to me.
yeah, on a much larger scale, yeah. But there's
Yeah,
there's there's entities keeping these things in line and making sure that there's laws set up for how these
right,
things function, and to making sure these laws are kept and that everything comes forth at its appointed time.
right.
So, all right, will you go ahead and read that again down to the end of verse 5?
Sure. So 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other in accurately corresponding order. Also, many windows to the right and left of these portals. And first there goes forth the great luminary, named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. Verse 5. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he
Hold on
comes
a
to the.
second.
Go ahead.
It goes to the north to return to the east.
Yes.
Hmm. I feel like we should be able to check that. Doesn't that happen?
Yeah, I mean, you should be able to, watch that, right? Observe
Right.
it at least. To me, what's so neat is the chariot on which he ascends. The wind drives it. The wind is what's pushing it. So that's really really crazy to me personally. Is that the
Yeah.
wind is driving it, and the sun goes down from heaven and returns through the north. So let's just break that down. It goes down from heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of heaven. And that is the end of verse 5.
All right. See, I don't want to go down too far down the rabbit hole in the book of the luminaries there within First Enoch, but that's just to give an example of what's going on in the second heaven and with the eclipse coming up and everything. Adjust this real quick. So I'd also like to check this out. This is from what they call the Colburn Bible. It has nothing to do with Christianity. It's out of Egypt. Could you look up for me the Colburn chapter 5, part 3? Now, this will tie into what we were talking about with Shiva, Apollo, and the destroyers. Okay.
It's titled The Destroyer, Part 3.
Yeah.
I'll read it if you want me to.
You don't have to read the whole thing. But this, if you'd read the first paragraph,
Sure.
just to give a little example, and then the last paragraph, just to give a little bit of detail. And this is in the Colburn, what's called the Colburn Bible. A lot of times, chapter 5, part 3. Okay, the scroll from Adifa. Is that we're all the same thing? Awesome.
Yeah.
So you can look this up for yourself and read this whole section if you'd like. But I think the first and last paragraphs will sum it up pretty well.
Quick question for you, because I'm unfamiliar with the word Adifa. Is that just a location where maybe the scroll was located?
I believe so. I'll have to look at that. I am not an expert on the Colburn. I was just looking up different things about destroyers. Right before we got on, I don't know how I went on this path, but that's how I went down there.
Okay. So the doom shape, called the destroyer in Egypt, was seen in all the lands whereabouts. In color, it was bright and fiery, in appearance changing and unstable. It twisted about itself like a coil, like water bubbling in a pool from an underground supply. And all men agree it was the most fearsome sight. It was not a great comet or a loosened star. That's a really neat terminology there, loosened star, being more like a fiery body of flame. That was our first paragraph. And the final paragraph, the doom shape is like a circling ball of flame, which scatters small fiery offspring in its train. It covers about 1/5 part of the sky and sends writhing snake-like fingers down to earth. Before it, the sky appears frightened, and it breaks up and scatters away. Midday is no brighter than night. It spawns a host of terrible things. These are the things said of the destroyer in the old records. Read them with a solemn heart, knowing that the doom shape has its appointed time and will return. It would be foolish to let them go unheeded. Now men say, such things are not destined for our days. May the great God above grant that this be so. But come, the day surely will, and in accordance with his nature, man will be unprepared. Bro, I've never read this. That's pretty gnarly. That's
pretty gnarly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, and the rest of it, you have in the third paragraph there, it says the earth was troubled and shook. The hills and mountains moved and rocked. The dark smoke-filled heavens bowed over earth, and a great howl came to the ears of men, borne to them upon the wings of the wind. And it was a cry of the dark Lord, the master of dread. Thick clouds of fiery smoke passed before him. There was an awful hell of hot stones and coals of fire. The doom shape thundered sharply in the heavens. None of it's good.
No, it doesn't sound like a great time.
No, none of it's good. Now I bring this up to kind of circle back, give it the old Jen Psaki circle back. The reason I bring this up is because we could look this up too, just to show people the devil's what is it called? The devil's comet will be in the sky for this eclipse. Now, there was a eclipse, I believe it was in 1811, that we had a comet in the sky for. And right after that, we had the worst earthquakes in American history. and there will be what they're calling the Devil's Comet, I believe.
Yeah, when I looked up Devil's Comet, we got one coming up in 2024, and then yes, we have the Great Comet of 1811.
Yeah. And just devastating earthquakes after that. So they're saying that this could happen. Now, if you've been watching the news over the past couple of days, there's been 2 earthquakes in New York and 1 earthquake today in New Jersey. There's been, I believe in California, they had a couple smaller ones in the 4-ish range. And you had the big one several days ago in Taiwan. So we're seeing earthquakes all over the place already, kind of setting up for this to happen. So, make sure that we're praying that, everybody stays safe and that God keeps his hand on this and that his will's done. Because these occultists and just, let's call it the cabal that runs this earth, is trying to set it off right now. I mean, they're doing everything they can, scientifically, spiritually. I mean, they're trying to set it off right now, and everything is aligning for them, in the heavens. They're they're going to try whatever they can to open that bottomless pit. They're going to try whatever they can to bring their Messiah into the world. Because some of these evil folks, man, they would love no more than to release Apollo and to bow down before him and let the Dark Lord reign.
Right.
These people are really that sick. I mean, throughout history, you had people that sacrificed their own children to these Dark Lords. And they don't think like me and you think. They don't feel like me and you feel. They don't, they have a reprobate spirit, and they want the most destruction, the most filth, the most depravity. They want all of those things. And normal people, people that just, want to raise their families and be left alone and, go to work and pay the taxes, they don't think like that. But these maniacal SOBs that run this place do. So just be praying and know that, there's been things throughout time, that have happened. But right now we have the technology. They're trying to take advantage of, astrological alignments. And because we're at the point of where we can do that. Who knows what the end goal is of these people, but that, CERN's talked about opening portals. I believe it was the head of their research. Talked about opening a portal that they could, something might come through it, or they might send something through, through the other way. And that's a quote from, I believe he was the director of research at CERN. So this isn't just, crazy, wild things here. There's powers in the second heaven, and there's powers in the first heaven right down here where we are. And there's people here that serve those powers in the first and second heaven and are trying to do what they can in the physical realm, while powers in the second heaven do what they can in their realm to bring about something, man.
Right.
There's a lot going on right now, and what it could be the end goal. I mean, I believe this is open the bottomless pit.
Yeah. I that's one thing that we you and I have gone down some rabbit holes together in the past concerning, what things could have possibly happened. One thing I enjoy about conversation with you in particular is that you don't have as much reserve as, maybe some other people do into questioning maybe what we might think could be wrong, and opening up to, more discussion and to more questions. And so we've gone down a rabbit hole together many times about what if such and such in Revelation has already happened. And one thing that I have struggled to find is some type of evidence that there ever was a bottomless pit that ever did open. I don't know if you found anything that would allude to that.
To where the nations could look down and see.
Yeah,
That,
right. And yeah, like locusts
yeah,
are coming out and they're harming men for months at a time. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. I don't see that anywhere now. With that theory, um, and we're talking, it's not preterism. It's more like the little season theory. It's a little different than preterism. Um, is what we're exploring for a while, and I believe that does have some value to some of it there. But you have to throw out what 75% of known history,
Right.
really. I mean, you do for it to make sense. Um, you have to for it really to make sense with that theory. You would have to also prove that Revelation was written before 70 A.D.
And yeah, and that seems to be a hard one. That was one thing that you would, when I heard someone else teaching on that one day, they presented a pretty solid case that Revelation couldn't have been written before
Around
70.
89, 90 AD, something like
Yeah,
that.
it
Yeah.
was a pretty compelling case.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Um, but, not to get too sidetracked on that, but yeah. Um, another part of that, though, is that something happened in the 1800s, and with that eclipse and the earthquakes happened in 1811, that is interesting. Um, if any of you guys out there are familiar with the Tartaria and mud flood and um, star forts and all that type of stuff, it's a hell of a conspiracy. I mean, there were star forts and there was a Tartaria. I know we've looked at the Encyclopedia Britannica, and so I mean, it's without a doubt was a nation and a region, and there are people called Tartars. Um, but with that, with all those earthquakes and with that eclipse, that's very interesting. Right there in that 1800 pocket.
Yeah, it is super interesting, man. Because I mean, you know, um, there is a verse that I will find in a second, but I'm just going to allude to it real quick, where it says that the bad guys, essentially, just paraphrasing, the bad guys will do everything they can to bring about the end, and they will succeed in some regards of making it a facade to look like we're headed towards the end. But you can always there's never anything wrong with watching. You know what I'm saying? I'll bring up a couple of verses. There's Watchmen, what of the night? Watchmen, what of the night? What I say unto you, I say unto all. Watch. That's a direct quote from Jesus Christ. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Um, and then I'll find that one. I believe it's in Daniel that says, they're going to do their best to make these things come about. That's going to take me a second to find, but you know, there's no harm in you and I watching. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Honestly, I want to be wrong. You know what I mean? I'm really not trying to deal with this.
What's the
Whatever.
verse that says, where it says, "Why do the heathen imagine a vain thing? Why do the nations rage against like the Most High?"
Yeah, I think
And
that's Psalms chapter 1. I think I could be wrong on that.
I love
Um,
Psalms.
Me too, man. That is an incredibly underrated book, bro.
Oh yeah, man. If you're ever having rough times in your life, throw on Psalms and listen to that. You want to get close to God, and if you've just been beaten down or had a rough time, there's nothing better than listen to the Psalms. All my
Oh,
enemies surround me. Where all
yeah,
and a
exactly.
lot of that. They hate me and despise me, and
Right.
honestly, the world should hate and despise you. That's how they should treat you if you're of the Most High.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good
I was
example.
wrong. Psalm chapter 2, not 1. Psalm chapter 2. Why did the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth that set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointing. It's a dude. The book's fantastic. There's so many places in there that
Did you read that one more time? Now, people, think about what's going on today with the rulers of the world and how they, treat their people and how they, how they, view the Most High God and how much consideration they have for Him. Could you read that one more time?
why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together, saying, the Lord, and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. I mean, dude,
Yeah.
I, I can get passionate on it and start really like letting the crazy wheels burn. But it's like it's right here. It's in the very second chapter of Psalms that you have the kings of the earth and the rulers taking counsel together against the Lord and against his anointing. And what are they saying? Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. It's not a conspiracy. It's right here in the Bible. Although there is hope, you know what I'm saying? Because in the very
No,
next verse,
there's hope. But think about
yeah,
that now. You got CERN at the ancient temple of Apollo the Destroyer with a big idol of Shiva the Destroyer outside. During the eclipse with NASA shooting the rockets at the eclipse with the Devil's Comet in the sky, and CERN cranked all the way up to full power. They don't do that often, man. I think the last time they did it was like 2008 or something, and they've
right.
increased their capabilities exponentially since then. Okay, a lot. Since 2008, we've had the Wi-Fi revolution. Think of all the things that just normal players like me and you have. They've upped it tremendously.
Right.
It seems like the scientific elite, the elite of the world, all the wars everywhere right now, the genocide going on, everything happening in the stars and in the heavens, wildfires everywhere, just cropping up out of nowhere, just all the things going on. Why do the heathen rage and plot, and the kings of the earth plot against God and his anointed?
Right.
They're
Going
right
on
they're
that
trying
same,
to break the bands and cast it asunder is what they're
right,
trying to do right now. They're trying to use their technology and their knowledge to basically, in layman's terms, to team up with the dark side to cast away any kind of the chains of the Most High, basically.
right,
So they're gearing up for a war with God.
right,
Now, think about in Revelation. We were talking about Revelation 20. You were referencing it earlier. He gathers when Satan's released. He gathers together all the nations to come to war against God. So that's what the story is that the nations of the earth and all the people on the earth come together under the dragon to make war against God. That's what this is all about. That's the end game, is to break free of God and to hopefully establish a new golden age like it was before Noah's flood, with the return of the ancient gods, the old gods coming back and ruling on the earth. And out of all the literature I've read about that, human beings weren't in the best position back then. You were basically a slave or dead.
right,
And these geniuses at CERN and that are in charge of the governments of the world want to bring that back. Who do they think they are? They're like, when you talk about these, the old gods and everything else, who do they think they would be to these old gods? It would be nothing more than an ant.
Well, that's a great. I'm so glad you said that right there. Psalm 73. Let's say that again.
I said, why would they want to do this? They're just psychopaths.
It's wild, man. And you know just as much as I do, and probably more when the ego and the pride of these guys, that they are the stars, they are the heroes, they are we are the champion. You know what I'm saying? They're the champions, is what Goliath called himself and all this. I mean, this is the way they view themselves.
Yeah, but compared to normal human beings, Goliath was a champion. This is the type of
true
they want to bring back.
Yeah.
They want to bring, and Goliath was a tiny one.
Right.
And at least he was like a humanoid.
Right.
Can we read? Let's do it again. Let's go back to Revelation 9:11, where that bottomless pit was open. This is what these people want to bring on the earth. We would wish it was a 9-foot humanoid. You know what I mean?
Right.
We
Starting
would wish for
starting
that.
in verse 3, we'll see who comes out. And there
Yeah.
came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented for 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it. They shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And
Could
the
we get?
shape of, go ahead.
I apologize. Would you read the description of what those things are that are hurting the people? I believe that was just before that, where the pit opens up and the smoke fills the heavens.
Yeah, and the shapes of the locust were like
Yeah.
unto horses, prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men, and their hair was as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. They had breastplates, and they were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men for 5 months. And then we find out who their king is, Abaddon.
Right.
And that's just the first woe. You got two more coming right after,
Yes.
Not a good time.
Right. This is what yeah, sounds like a golden age to me.
Right.
Like, even if you don't want to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, even if you don't want to bow down, wouldn't you at least want a decent earth to live on?
Right.
Wouldn't you at least want to have, I don't know. I don't have that type of mind, so maybe they don't. Maybe they want it to be done.
I'd like to read something for you. This chapter opened my eyes the second time I went through the Bible, and I think of it all the time. It's Psalm 73. It's written by Asaph. It says, "Truly God is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. But as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death. Their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain. Violence covereth them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than a heart could wish. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. They set their mouth against heaven, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Therefore his people will return here, and the waters of a full cup are wrung out to them. And they say, how does God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world. They increase in riches. Verily, I have cleansed my heart in vain and washed my hands in innocency. For all the day long I have been plagued and chastened every morning." And the verse goes on. I love it, bro. And he says, when I thought to know this, it was too painful for me. This is every Christian who knows a thing or
Yep.
two about who runs the world. This is a great chapter for us all because it's been like this. It's been this way forever. Is that these guys, they don't have any problems. It says they have more than what their heart could desire. Nothing ever goes wrong for them. Everything's fine. And so because of that, they increase in vanity, they increase in pride, they speak against the Most High. They say, how does God know? Is there any knowledge in the Most High? I mean, these are the people we're talking about, man. You know what I'm saying? And when you think about it, it's too painful for me. It's bothersome. He even says, I almost lost my footing. I was so close because I was almost envious of the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. I love that chapter.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who have fallen into that. Think about the guys that come from rougher areas to see the guys selling the drugs with the cars and the girls and all
Right.
that type of stuff, and then
Right.
they end up falling that path, and then they come into what? Ruin. It's only jail or death, right?
Right.
It's the foolish pathway. That's just a small version of it. You have guys that how many of these billionaires have you seen give TED Talks about there's just too many people in the world and we need to, depopulate? Every WEF forum they're talking about the need to vaccinate everybody and the need for population control. Isn't that convenient?
Right.
They, these just sick people that find their way into power every single time in every civilization throughout all of history. They find their way into power
every
and
time.
It's disgusting, man.
It is, man. They're very weaselly. That's what gets me about it is they're weaselly. In some regards, and this might sound kind of silly at first, but I almost have a little bit of respect for the fact that Goliath just walked out and was like, "Fight me, bro." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
you know?
that that would be more respectable. That's what I mean. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
that
weasels.
it would be more respectable. No, these people are this sniveling weak man in the corner. Um, the Bill Gates, the George Soros, the Alex Soros, the Janet Yellens, the these are the type of people that we're dealing with. They're not the most intelligent, but they've been given power because they will do anything that they're told, or they have no problem doing anything to keep power. They
Right.
will lie, they will cheat,
Lie.
they will steal, you know, they'll use the death of their wife like Joe Biden did to get reelected and have, bringing cameras with the kids crying to take pictures for his campaign. And those are little things compared to what's going on with CERN and everything else. But this is just the type of people they are. They'll do anything for power. They'll do anything to dominate the situation, no matter what it is or who it hurts or how many people die. I mean, how many people died on 9/11, bro?
Right.
In
Is it
the
out?
U.S., it was what, about 3,000, 4,000, right? How many people did we kill over there? How many $1 million bombs did we drop on $20 tents of people that had nothing to do with it?
Sense. Yeah, exactly right.
I think about it. It was over 1 million in Iraq.
Right.
Over 1 million people we killed. 1 million. 1 million people, and they didn't have nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? They
Right.
had nothing to do with it. And these are the type of people that are in power. So we're going to go ahead and get to the Genesis, second chapter commentary, but we just wanted to cover that real quick with the eclipse going on and a lot of very strange things coincidentally happening at the same time. Right here coming up at Passover. Folks, just pray and keep your eyes open and watch and stock up on water. I know that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to stock up on a lot of water. I got a little bit. I'm going to get a lot more.
You saw the government said that during that eclipse, everybody needs to go ahead and get about 2 weeks worth of food and supplies, right? You saw that?
I saw that. Yeah, I believe that was in Oklahoma, and where's that eclipse? They're actually going to be able to see the eclipse.
Yeah, what is that? The path of totality.
Yeah, all the Ninevehs it's going through. It's like 8 different places. This Nineveh that's going through. It's quite
I didn't see that.
Yeah. And people are saying it's a sign to repent that's going through, I believe, 8 or 9 different towns. It's called Nineveh on its path.
Wow.
I believe there's 9 Ninevehs in the United States, and this eclipse is going through 8 of them.
Jeez Louise, mac and cheese. Hey, you sent me a video that showed that the path of the last 3 eclipses that we have makes the Aleph and the Tav, and I thought that was really,
the first letter, the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Yeah. So Alpha and the Omega would be what that would be in Greek, which would be the beginning and the end, the first and the last, which is another name for the Father.
right. That's when he gives himself. That's not a man-made name either. He says it in the Bible. I am the beginning and the end, the first and the last.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things going on right now, man. And I don't want to say that, this is definitely going to happen, because it might not. It's all up to God. But I will say this: I do know that the forces of darkness on this earth are trying to make something happen. And what I believe is they're trying to force open that bottomless pit, or force open a dimensional doorway.
Right.
And And I'm not even exaggerating a little bit. That's
No.
that's legitimately, that comes from, I believe it was the director of research there at CERN. Like that's pretty high up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, they've been pretty open the whole time. Like you said, they're trying to recreate the Big Bang. They were trying to create portals and, study dark matter.
It's all about an artificial Jacob's ladder.
Yeah, man.
We're reaching. I mean, think about with the quantum computing and everything else. We can get into that, but they, you know, we've gone, we've crossed the barrier where we were. Um, Everything is possible right now. We have, in that Putin and Tucker Carlson interview. Did you ever watch that section where he talked about, now it's possible for with genetics to, create super soldiers, basically.
Yes.
You have that. You have where they found, or not found, but where they killed the giant in Kandahar. Um, you can look this up. There's all kinds of reputable sources that for people in the military that were in Afghanistan, I believe in 2006, there was a giant in Kandahar, Afghanistan, that was killed, and they airlifted him out of there. So if you think for 1 second that they didn't get a giant and then extract DNA to start a cloning operation or some kind of super soldier program, you haven't been paying attention to the U.S. government or any other government, but the U.S. government. You think there wasn't a military application that they didn't try to extract from that? Come on, man. Can we read? Well, let's say that for another time. But there's all kinds of things going on in this world, and just stay prayed up and stay ready. Matt, if you want to kill it there, we can start on some Genesis 2 action.
Let's do it, bro. Hey, that was fun. I'm glad we recorded that. That was dope.
Yeah.
All right, let's
Before you start recording, man, I'll probably do a little side note on